there's not many spaces where we can have intimate conversations about vulnerability in the bedroom, about fear in the bedroom, right? And that is exactly what we're going to do today with my new friend Shay Doran. Now, Shay Doran specializes in helping men fix sexual performance anxiety, erection problems, and overcome sexual communication blocks so that you can feel normal again and have intimacy without awkwardness. So Shay, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. And when you reached out to me and I looked at your page, I was like, "Oh my gosh, there's so many videos that you have that I resonate with and that I know so many men resonate with." And there's one thing I know about shame, and it's that it hates to be talked about. So let's bust through that shame. Let's have a real conversation about sex and sexuality and what men do or don't do in the bedroom and how the baggage that we do or don't bring into the bedroom, and see how we can kind of resolve this. How does that sound?
Yeah, let's go. Let's get cracking. There's a lot for us to talk about. So
There's a lot to talk about. So I'm going to ask you some questions that I hear a lot.
Okay.
Here's one. And this is more for men that are in long-term relationships, but I don't think it's just for men in long-term relationships. Sometimes it's hard to get in the mood. Sometimes life feels monotonous. So do you ever work with men that struggle, that want to have sex but struggle getting in the mood? And what would you say to those men?
Okay, so there's probably a few ways of approach here. Okay, so I often look at things from obviously the medical front is important, the mindset front, that's where the work that I do. But there can be changes, for example, in our testosterone levels that can contribute to us not really feeling in the mood, or just changes to, let's say, our vitamin levels are off balance or whatever it may be. So I would always say, if this has been a consistent thing that you've noticed over years, that there's been a decline in your just levels of arousal, I think it's always a good worthwhile job to go to your primary caregiver and just get some blood medical check done, testosterone check, just to rule out anything medical that's going on. This is an important first step. Okay, we want to make sure that that box is ticked first of all. Usually it's not that, but that's an important first step. After that, when it comes to the mindset, usually what I see come up the most often is either there's been multiple experiences that haven't gone to plan, and that puts us off of wanting to initiate, right? Because we have the concern in our mind of, what if the same thing happens again? What if I'm not able to get hard again? Or what if I'm not able to climax? And so it becomes easier to avoid initiating with our partner and do something like go and watch porn instead, as an example, because that feels safer and more comfortable. So there's this part of, let's say, experiences not going to plan. There may be another thing that I hear most often is that our partner at some point has had a negative reaction to erection challenges. Okay, they perceived it as it was because of them, or is it because am I not attractive anymore, or are you not attracted to me anymore? Because there was quite an intense reaction that's then created a higher than normal intensity around sex and intimacy. Okay. And then the other thing I would say is that over time, in a long-term relationship, we have to work at intimacy, right? It's not something that is just a given. Life sets in, we have our work stress, other life, family situations, if there's kids, that all of these things, even one of those can be something that detracts from our sexual energy. And we often end up giving away all of these parts of ourselves, and then our partner is left with, or we bring into the bedroom, the very last few scraps of, when it's last thing at night, we've had a really stressful day, or just put the kids to bed, or whatever it may be, and we've got into bed, and now we're expecting ourselves to have intimacy.
Yeah. I love that you bring up at the very beginning of this conversation, mindset. I think we live in a culture that's so easy to slap a Band-Aid on something or take a pill. And listen, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with medication necessarily, but I love that we recognize that it's not all because of taking a drug, that so much of it is the mindset we bring into it. I heard one person say once that foreplay I don't remember who said this. It might have been Esther Perel. I can't remember. But someone said that foreplay starts after you last had sex. In other words, everything that you bring in from that moment, especially when you live with someone, right, is kind of bringing it into the bedroom with you. I've also heard Dan Savage say, I don't know if we can swear in this. I'm just going to say F first. In other words, like if you're going to go on a date, like make sure you have sex before you go out. And I don't know about you. I'm 39. I'm married. And so I understand. I'm not saying I'm old, but I'm not 21 anymore. And, I don't want to have sex at midnight sometimes. Right. So, like, I think there's
Especially
so many.
after like a 3-course meal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
definitely
it's
not.
like, and I think there's so many things. We beat ourselves up over this and we forget that we grow and we get older and we get tired and maybe we've had a drink, maybe not. But either way, something like having sex before you go out can be very helpful. I don't know about you. I just feel like in my work, recognizing that it might be your mindset, that simple acknowledgement can do wonders because that can get us out of the mindset of, oh, there's something wrong with me into a place of, yeah, it's just my mindset or, oh, I'm just tired. So then it makes it feel a little more hopeful. Would you agree?
I would say a very helpful way of looking at this from the work that I do with guys, there's a book that you may have heard of called Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski. And one of the things she talks about in that book is the context in which we are having intimacy. Because what often happens, a very easy trap that I see that we fall into as men is when something doesn't go to plan in the bedroom. So when we lose our erection or it just doesn't really feel like it's going in the right direction, or when we struggle to climax, we often think, as you said, something's wrong with me. We just look at that one experience or multiple similar experiences that haven't gone to plan, rather than looking at the broader context of, do I actually know the person, as an example, right? I'm talking more about for single guys here or people in open relationships. What's the level of trust and safety that I've built with the person? Or even if it's with my partner, is this like a rushed or quickly before we go out and meet some friends? So this is just some examples. Or are we doing it as soon as we've walked back in through the door and we're not really ready? It's been a really stressful day. So the context in which we're having intimacy is really, really important. And I think this is where you talk about these simple shifts here. When we start to look at, am I setting sex and intimacy up in a way that I actually really enjoy? Or am I doing it more often in ways that don't really turn me on? And that might sound, oh, how do we figure that out? It's quite simple. We have all of the evidence. So I would recommend, if you're listening to this and it's resonating so far, if you're experiencing some challenges or things feeling awkward in the bedroom, just look at your last 3, write down some details about your last 3 intimate experiences that you really liked and the last 3 that did not go to plan. And you'll start to see what some of the patterns are. They will be very different. You'll see that they'll be wildly different in terms of the setup, the environment, the atmosphere, the connection with the person, what was going on at that moment in time. So we have all of the evidence that we already need to see, are we doing intimacy in a way that works for us or not?
I love that so much. I can't tell you how many times I tell my clients that we must think like engineers. And what I mean by that is stepping out of the drama and leaning into the data, right? So the drama would say, oh, I'm impotent. I'm less of a man. I'm being punished for having sex or whatever it is or it'll always be this way. I think that's so true, right? Like we lose our erection and we think it's always going to feel this way. It's hopeless, right? Versus what you're saying is, well, let me look at the data. Let me collect data to see what turns me on, what doesn't. And I think that helps us to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. And in and of itself, then we get out of that mindset of something's wrong with us. And sometimes, again, that's all we need to get back in the moment.
Yeah, agreed. I really like what you said there around the data rather than the drama.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to let you keep that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can use that. I'll charge you later. Just kidding. Okay. So you mentioned, men who lose their erection during sex.
Mhm.
Walk me through that process. And when a man is having sex and he loses his erection, should he freak out and call it a day?
Well, this is often what happens, right? We think it's game over as soon as the erection's gone down. So there's a few things that I'd like to say here. Because this is what I spend most of my time talking about, right? And I experience this myself. I experience performance anxiety and erection problems, which is why we're having this conversation. Okay, so when this happens, in the moment, what's likely going on, if we know it's a mindset thing and it's not a medical thing, what's likely going on in biological terms, our body is going into a stress state when, we have our nervous system that's either in a calm state or a stress state. When our body goes into a stress state, blood is redirected to the critical parts of our body, so our brain and our muscles, because our brain is interpreting it as a fight and flight situation. And so our man downstairs in that moment is not a critical part of our body when our brain's in that mode. So blood is taken away from that area. That's why we lose the erection. Okay, so that's biologically what's going on in our body. That doesn't make it any easier to deal with, but it's important that we understand that we're not broken, because this is often what we think. I'm broken, something's wrong with me. As you said, it will always be this way. I will never be fixed. Right. And that in itself then just puts us in more of a stress state because we're adding pressure to ourselves.
Sure. Data versus drama.
Exactly. So it's important that we understand, first of all, we're not broken. There is nothing wrong. It's about the fact that at the moment, the brain is running a code that is saying sex equals stress, or sex equals pressure, sex equals a test, rather than sex equals fun, sex equals enjoyment, sex equals relaxation. Right. So the job is actually just to switch the code, so to speak, that the brain is running. Now, obviously, going through different mindset tools is how we achieve that. But it's important, first of all, just to understand there's not actually anything wrong with us.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I think another thing that we could add to the conversation is, again, data, right? Like, ask, are you tired? What did your day look like? What is your stress level throughout the day like? Or additionally, have you had alcohol? Are you partaking in other drugs or enhancements that might affect your erection? So I think it's important to collect that data and recognize that as well.
Yes, cool. I agree. Two other things I want to mention. So our expectations. Okay. Unfortunately, for most of us, our sexual education is based on porn, based on adult content. That is how most of us, it is the reference point that most of us have seen for most of our life.
Yeah.
And so even when we get to the point of realizing, which I believe many guys watching this will know, okay, porn isn't like real life sex, but there's still the subconscious part of our mind that still thinks that's how we should be. We should always be hard. We should always be ready to go. You never see anybody in a porn scene that loses their erection. We hardly even see it at the beginning of porn, someone that's soft. Usually the guy is just hard immediately and ready to go. And so this is an important realization on the journey of knowing that we can't, if we're comparing how we think we should be to what we're seeing on a scripted movie that includes injecting the dick with Viagra or taking pills before going on set, we're setting ourselves up for an unfair comparison every single time.
Yeah.
And then fluctuations. This is the other thing I want to talk about, is that, again, we often don't, because nobody tells us as guys, it is normal for our erections to fluctuate. So when I see this come up the most often, when guys usually freak out, is let's say we're kissing on the sofa and then we move into their bedroom, right? So we're hard on the sofa kissing, then we go into the bedroom, the erection goes down a bit, and then we already start to get into our head and we're thinking, oh my God, I'm going soft, it's happening again, what if I can't get hard again? This spiral of thoughts is then what pushes our body into a stress state. Okay, There's clearly no problem with our erection because we were hard on the sofa kissing a minute ago. So there's nothing wrong with the erection. It's the fact that we have paused in the intimacy to navigate our way to the bedroom. It's normal that our erection would go down in that moment. Another moment may be when our partner goes to the bathroom. They say, I'm just going to go to the bathroom. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Right? Often we can think, I've got to stay hard. I've got to stay in the zone. If they come back from the bathroom and they see that I'm not hard, it's going to be game over. Again, it's normal for our erection. I really want to normalize this to go down in that moment because the same stimulation, the level of stimulation has stopped. Our partner's not in the room anymore. It's not the same intensity as what it was. And then one other misconception related to this is for men who have sex with men, there is again, because of porn, a belief that when a guy has been bottom, he should be hard for the whole time. This is not true. It's actually quite difficult because there's a lot of intensity and stimulation going on in a different part of the body. So we're trying to expect to be this kind of magic, to perform in all places and all areas. And it's again, it's not that something has gone wrong. No, it's that the focus is on a different part of our body. There's already enough going on in the other area. This is normal. It's not what we see on porn, but this is normal.
I love that you keep bringing porn up. And again, I'm gonna lean on Dan Savage for this one, but he has a great metaphor about this where he says, you don't see an action movie like Fast and the Furious 9 and then get in your car and jump off the highway in your car, jump from your car as it explodes, and live to tell about it.
Yes.
So why do you watch porn and expect to have sex in the same way? It is fantasy. It is a movie. And you're absolutely right. I don't know if men know this, but many porn stars are getting injected in their penises to keep their erection. I actually know a porn star in Los Angeles who cannot get fully hard anymore and has lost sensitivity to his penis because when he was younger in porn, he got injected with that. So that is incredibly dangerous. So we're not talking about normalcy or health, good health in this way. And I'm not judging people that do it. I'm just saying, let's not think that that's the way it's supposed to be, or like that's even healthy or good for us.
Yeah.
So I think another thing I want to say, and I want your thoughts on this too, is like, I think there's just this misconception that sex, A, must include an erection or more, and B, must include an orgasm. And I just don't think that's true. I mean, I think what happens, listener, if this is speaking to you, that the next time you have sex, if you or your partner or both of you lose your erections, what happens if you just enjoy yourself? Like, what happens if you just find something that feels good in that moment? I understand there's disappointment. I understand, like, so we can note those beliefs that come through our heads, but what if you take the emphasis off of your penis and just make out? Or what if you play with your flaccid penis? Like, why does it have to be a one-size-fits-all for sex? I think that gets us in a lot of trouble.
Well, this is an interesting one. Yeah, it's an interesting one because we all want to, right? We want to be able to have, we want to be rock hard. We want to be able to have, well, not all of us, but in general, there's this desire there for us to want to have, or we believe sex is this. It means penetration, it means climax, it means orgasm, and then it's completed. So it's on one hand, it's difficult for us to get away from this equation of that's what sex looks like, because we've spent most of our life believing and learning that that is what sex is. So it takes a person to be willing to expand their mind beyond that, and ideally for their partner to also be on board with trying new things, being very open and communicative about it, which is also why I help guys overcome these communication blocks, because it can feel very awkward to how do we even have this conversation?
Yeah.
How do I talk to my partner about this? So I think that's one side. We're always going to have our desire to want to have sex in a particular way. But I would say the more realistic way of approach that I found is, instead of the what if things don't go to plan, and then, so let's say we go soft and then we have to just enjoy each other in the moment. My personal approach would be more, let's take the expectation of it always has to be penetrative sex off of the table, so that it doesn't always have to be penetrative sex every time. And actually, we're just going to kiss, we're just going to hug, we're just going to massage each other, we're just going to explore each other's bodies. If we get hard and we decide that that's what we want to do, great. But if not, the expectation is off the table. So it's less about, oh, things didn't go to plan, now we feel a bit disappointed, but we're going to do some other things anyway. And more about, we don't have an expectation around this. We're just going to enjoy each other and see where it goes.
I love that. And I think that's such a good metaphor for everything. As they say, it's never about sex. Like it is and it's not. What you're saying, what I hear you saying, is take the expectations off, be in the moment, be present, focus on connection.
Yes. It's easier said than done. especially if we're experiencing erection challenges, it's easier said than done because, understandably, there's a part of us that really wants to get this sorted and wants to be able to satisfy our partner or wants to be able to feel good ourselves. I say that, but also with a realistic understanding of how it feels when things aren't going to plan.
And so before we end our conversation, I do have another question about exactly what you just said. And it's I think mindset is fantastic. Additionally, do you have any tips that you want to discuss on how to maintain an erection, how to strengthen your erection, how to last longer? Like, are there things that we can do, exercises, whether it's mindset or in our body, that might help with this?
I will tell you what I believe from my perspective, what I've seen to work from my perspective, and what doesn't work. Because I want to be very real and honest about this, because there's a lot of 1-minute miracle fixes out there that never actually happen. You will know this too. I'll do this 10-minute thing and everything will be sorted. It doesn't work. And it's not going to work. So there is a trap. First of all, we have to be honest. If we're experiencing performance anxiety or some form of either erection or ejaculation problems, it can be very easy for us to stay stuck behind a screen, watching endless videos on this, reading endless amounts of articles, because each thing is promising. Oh, once we understand this, then I'm one step closer to getting this sorted. Or, oh, here's the trick that I didn't know about before. Hopefully this is the thing. So this is what our mind wants, right? Because it's instant validation. It feels like, oh, it's the thing that's going to get it fixed for me. I don't have to put myself out there. I don't have to speak to anybody else about it. I can just figure it all out by myself. But we have to be real with ourselves and say, how long has that gone on for now? Has that been weeks, months, years? And are things going in the direction that we want them to be going? And usually the answer is no to that. So whilst there are endless amounts of false quick fixes, I would say the things that we're going to hear the most often that do genuinely help in the moment. Okay, breathing. We hear about this so much and it's so overstated, but it is a technique that helps to bring our nervous system into more of a calmer state. I spoke earlier on about our body going into a stress state. Okay.
Yeah.
So breathing will help to bring our nervous system down. Let's imagine it's at a 10. It will bring it down to, let's say, an 8 or a 7. It's not the thing that's going to get erection challenges fixed, right? We breathe or we meditate. It's not suddenly going to, oh, now my erection comes back all of a sudden. So when we're in the moment trying to figure out a quick fix that will get it sorted, it's already too late. Okay, a really important distinction that I talk through with the guys that I work with is we need to be working on this when it's at a 2 or a 3 out of 10 before we're anywhere near intimacy in the bedroom. It's the thoughts that come up of the like, oh, I'm meeting my partner tomorrow or later on. What if something doesn't go to plan? That's when the anxiety is already starting. And it's at a 2 or a 3. We're not in the moment. When we're trying to do something in the moment to reverse it, it's too late. So breathing, if we want to calm our nervous system, but I want to be very clear, is that is not the thing that will get performance anxiety or erection problems fixed in the moment. Okay, we have to be working on things before they get to that point. Kegel exercises, let me talk about that. Scientifically, Kegel exercises have got a very good track record of helping to improve premature ejaculation. So out of all of the pills, pumps, medications, things that are on the market, there's a lady called Michelle Kenway who has a Kegel's YouTube channel who I really rate her videos. She's very experienced in that area. So I would say doing this over time, 10 minutes a day, is good. It's good to strengthen that area of our body anyway, our pelvic floor. That's a positive thing, like going to the gym or working out is a positive thing. So it's good to strengthen that area of our body. Again, it's not the thing that is going to sort performance anxiety. Kegel exercises will not fix performance anxiety. But if it's to do with a bit of a weakness in our pelvic floor, yes, Kegels have been pretty well proven to help with that. Yeah, with that said, I would say, it's not that maybe sounds like, oh, it's not so promising or here's the instant thing, but we have to be real that the instant fixes are marketing. It's false. And if we want to get this sorted for the long term, we have to be working on the mindset piece, which starts much earlier on than just being in the moment and trying to stop ourselves overthinking in the moment.
I really love your emphasis on the fact that it's not just in the moment, right? It's like, it is maybe a silly metaphor, but it's like that's what we brush our teeth so we don't have a cavity when we go to the dentist, right? Like you don't just go to the dentist and think that's enough, right? So you can do these mindset exercise and focus on the thoughts that are coming in and out of your head leading up to the experience that can help you in the experience itself.
Exactly.
I just love how much you emphasize mindset. It's so holistic and it's so true of how much is in our minds, right?
Yeah.
I think we have more control than we think we do.
It's all in the mind. Yeah, it's all in the mind. So we absolutely do. But the first part is awareness, and it can be very difficult to spot this on our own. You know, we expect ourselves. I always make this comparison, right? When we get going for a new job or a promotion, or we want to learn how to swim, or we ride a bike or whatever, we have to learn from somebody. Somebody shows us how to do that. But in this area of sex, we don't want we don't want to talk about it. And we expect ourselves to know all the answers and to figure it out by ourselves. So when we have some stuckness or a challenge, it's unlikely that we're going to be able to just figure it out and get it all sorted by ourselves. We need someone that has been there, has gone through it, and is able to help us move past it because they've navigated that. Just like if we want a promotion, we usually learn from a mentor or someone who's been there and done that and who understands the steps that need to be taken. So I think this is just beginning to open the mind. And although it can feel very vulnerable and scary to reach out to somebody and have a conversation about this, it is the first step in getting it sorted. Many guys ask me or want to know why did this show up, or it seemed like it suddenly happened. And my belief is that performance anxiety, these types of thoughts start at a much, much younger age. We don't need to have experienced some kind of abuse or traumatic situations necessarily. But I would like you, if you're listening to this and if it's resonated, to think about, when you were younger, was there some form of pressure to perform, right? Whether this was to be great in academics, or whether it was to be great at theatre or in music, or comparison to a sibling, or comparison to other children, or just knowing, going through the journey of coming out as gay and the societal pressure of like having to perform or be a certain way. These seeds of what if I'm not good enough? What if I'm not loved? What if I can't satisfy the other person? What if this never goes right? These thoughts show up in our life much, much, much earlier on than when we start sex. And so a really important piece of the work that I do with guys is identifying the root of where these types of thoughts started, where the seeds were planted, because once we navigate those, then it's a chain reaction. And it's not all about that, you know, but 20% of it or so is about that. And it's a really important part to look at. And then we move on to how to deal with it in the moment. But we have to look at where were the seeds first sown for what if I'm not good enough? And it's usually nothing to do with sex.
So true. I call that finding the origin story. So like the similar work. Well, this has been such a pleasure. Y'all, if you're listening to this and you can relate to this, aka if you're listening to this and you're a human, then go ahead and click the links below to make sure you follow me and my page. Also follow and subscribe to Shay and his page. I'll drop all the important links below as well. Like this video, comment, let us know what was your favorite part. I think that this is the biggest thing, is building community and talking about these things. Let's normalize what it means to be human. So Shay, thanks for this conversation. I learned a lot, and listeners and viewers, I hope you learned a lot too, and we'll see you next time.